Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Endeavour and watched the stars through the main window. The ship was heading toward the edge of human space, where strange things had been happening. Jake had been a captain for 10 years, but he had never seen anything like what the reports described. His second officer, Linda Carter, walked up to him with a data pad in her hands. She looked worried, and her face showed the kind of fear that came from reading too many classified files. Linda had been with the crew for 5 years, and Jake trusted her more than anyone else on the ship. "Captain, we just got another message from the Galactic Council," Linda said as she handed him the pad. "They want us to stay away from the outer zones. They say it is for our own safety." Jake read the message and frowned. The Galactic Council had been sending these warnings for months now. Every time human ships got close to certain areas of space, the aliens would panic and send urgent messages telling them to turn back. The strange thing was that these areas were all around human colonies and Earth itself. "What do they think we are going to find out there?" Jake asked as he gave the pad back to Linda. "I do not know, sir, but the alien ships have been acting very strange lately," Linda replied. "Our sensors picked up 3 Zephyrian vessels yesterday. They were just sitting at the edge of our system, doing nothing. When we tried to contact them, they left without saying a word." Jake walked to his command chair and sat down. He had been in space long enough to know when something was not right. The aliens had been part of the Galactic Council for thousands of years. They had seen every kind of species and dealt with every kind of problem. But when it came to humans, they acted like scared children. The communication officer, Tony Martinez, turned around in his chair. "Sir, we are getting a transmission from the colony on New Denver. Mayor Ryan Brooks wants to speak with you." "Put him on screen," Jake ordered. The main screen showed a middle-aged man with gray hair and tired eyes. Ryan Brooks had been the mayor of New Denver for 3 years, and he had seen the colony grow from a small settlement to a thriving city. But today he looked like a man who had not slept in days. "Captain Morrison, thank goodness you are here," Ryan said. "We have been having some very strange problems. Ships keep showing up at the edge of our system, but they do not come closer. They just sit there and broadcast the same message over and over again." "What kind of message?" Jake asked. "It is in dozens of different alien languages, but our computers translated it. The message says, 'Turn back. This space is claimed by the Devourers of Worlds.' We do not know what that means, but it is scaring our people." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about the Devourers of Worlds, but he thought they were just old space legends. According to the stories, they were ancient beings that destroyed entire civilizations and left nothing behind but empty space. "How long have these ships been sending the message?" Jake asked. "For about 2 weeks now," Ryan replied. "But that is not the strangest part. Yesterday, one of our patrol ships tried to approach one of the alien vessels. The alien ship destroyed itself rather than let our people get close. The pilot sent a final message before the explosion. He said humans were not the ones he was afraid of." Jake looked at Linda, who was standing beside his chair. She had the same confused expression that he felt. If the aliens were not afraid of humans, then what were they afraid of? "Mayor Brooks, we are going to investigate this situation," Jake said. "Keep your people away from the edge of the system until we figure out what is happening." "Thank you, Captain. New Denver out." The screen went dark and Jake turned to his crew. "Linda, I want you to pull up every report we have about alien behavior in the last 6 months. Tony, contact Earth Command and ask them if they have any information about the Devourers of Worlds." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the ship's science officer, walked onto the bridge carrying a tablet. She was a young woman with dark hair and bright eyes, who had joined the crew just 2 years ago. Despite her youth, she was one of the smartest people Jake had ever met. "Captain, I have been studying the sensor data from the alien ships, Amy said. There is something very strange about their behavior. They are not just avoiding us. They are avoiding specific areas of space. What kind of areas? Jake asked. The areas where human military forces won major battles during the expansion wars, Amy replied. Every single spot where human ships achieved impossible victories against overwhelming odds. The aliens are marking these places as forbidden zones. Jake stood up and walked to the science station. Amy showed him a star map with red dots marking the locations of famous human victories. The Battle of Proxima Centauri, where 50 human ships defeated a fleet of 300 alien vessels. The defense of Europa, where a single human cruiser held off an entire invasion force. The rescue at Kepler Station, where human marines saved 10,000 civilians from certain death. This cannot be a coincidence, Jake said. There has to be a connection between these battles and whatever the aliens are afraid of. Sir, there is something else, Amy said. I have been reading the historical records of these battles. In every case, the human forces were massively outnumbered and should have been destroyed. But something happened during the fighting that turned the tide. The reports all mention the same thing. What thing? Jake asked. The human soldiers started fighting like they were powered by something beyond normal human ability. They moved faster, hit harder, and never seemed to get tired. The alien survivors all reported the same phenomenon. They said it was like fighting against beings touched by some kind of divine fury. Linda walked over to join them. That sounds like propaganda to make the victories seem more impressive. That is what I thought too, Amy said. But I found something else. Medical reports from human soldiers who survived these battles show unusual readings. Their adrenaline levels were off the charts, their reaction times were superhuman, and their brain activity showed patterns that should not be possible. Jake looked at the star map again. The red dots seemed to form a pattern around human space, like a protective barrier. Whatever was happening, it was big enough to scare the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Set course for the Proxima Centauri system, Jake ordered. We are going to find out what really happened during those battles. Sir, that system is in the middle of the Forbidden Zone, Linda said. The aliens have warned us to stay away from there. That is exactly why. We need to go, Jake replied. If the aliens are that afraid of something in human space, then we need to know what it is before someone else decides to do something about it. As the USS Endeavour changed course toward the Forbidden Zone, Jake could not shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything they thought they knew about humanity and their place in the galaxy. The USS Endeavour reached the edge of the Proxima Centauri system 3 days later. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the sensors as they scanned the area. The system looked peaceful now, but 50 years ago it had been the site of one of the most brutal battles in human history. Captain, we are picking up a distress signal, Tony Martinez announced from his station. It is coming from a damaged ship about 2 million kilometers away. Can you identify the ship? Jake asked. It appears to be a Caltharian research vessel. Tony replied. The ship is badly damaged and life support is failing. Jake turned to his first officer. Linda, take a team and board that ship. If there are survivors, bring them back for medical treatment. Yes, sir, Linda said as she headed for the shuttle bay. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was studying the sensor readings when she noticed something unusual. Captain, the damaged ship did not get into the system by accident. According to the debris pattern, it was deliberately trying to reach the site of the old battle. Why would the Caltharians want to study a 50-year-old battlefield? Jake wondered. Maybe they were looking for the same answers we are, Amy suggested. An hour later, Linda returned with a single survivor. The alien was a typical Caltharian, with gray skin and large black eyes. He was badly injured and very frightened. The medical team had to sedate him before they could treat his wounds. When the alien finally woke up, he was in the medical bay with Jake and Amy watching over him. The universal translator allowed them to communicate, but the alien seemed terrified every time he looked at them. "My name is Ziktar," the alien said in a weak voice. "I am a researcher for the Caltharian Science Council. Please do not hurt me." "We are not going to hurt you," Jake said gently. "We rescued you from your damaged ship. What were you doing in this system?" Ziktar looked around the room as if he expected monsters to jump out at any moment. "We were studying your species. My government has been trying to understand how humans fight so well for many years." "What do you mean?" Amy asked. "Your military records show impossible victories," Ziktar explained. "Battles where humans should have been destroyed, but somehow won instead. My people have been studying these events to learn your secrets." Jake and Amy exchanged glances. This was exactly what they had suspected. "What did you find out?" Jake asked. Ziktar pulled a small device from his pocket. "I have our research files on this data storage unit. But I warn you, the information is very disturbing. My crew died because we learned too much." Amy took the device and plugged it into her tablet. The screen filled with alien text and diagrams. The universal translator worked slowly to convert the information into English. "This is incredible," Amy said as she read the files. "The Caltharians have been studying human combat effectiveness for decades. They have detailed analysis of every major battle humans have fought since joining the galactic community." "What do their studies show?" Jake asked. "According to their calculations, human military forces perform at impossible levels when they are protecting something important," Amy replied. "The more desperate the situation becomes, the more effective human soldiers become. The Caltharians call it the Fury Enhancement Factor." Ziktar nodded weakly. "Your species defies all known laws of biology and physics when you fight to protect others. But that is not the strangest part." "What is the strangest part?" Jake asked. "The enhancement is not natural," Ziktar said. "Something is helping you. Something that has been with your species for thousands of years." Amy continued reading the files. The Caltharians found references to similar phenomena in ancient alien texts. Stories about a cosmic entity that forms bonds with warrior species and amplifies their protective instincts. "What kind of entity?" Jake asked. "The old texts call it the Wrath Eternal," Ziktar said. "It is described as a being that feeds on righteous anger and grows stronger with each act of heroism. According to legend, it chooses species that will fight to protect the innocent and forms a symbiotic relationship with them." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying that humans have been bonded with some kind of cosmic parasite?" "Not a parasite," Ziktar corrected. "A symbiont. The relationship benefits both species. The entity gets stronger from human emotions, and humans get enhanced abilities when they need them most." Amy found another section of the files that made her gasp. "Captain, look at this. The Caltharians have been monitoring human colonies for signs of the entity's presence. They have detected unusual energy readings during every major crisis that humans have faced." "What kind of energy readings?" Jake asked. "Spikes in dimensional activity, gravitational anomalies, and electromagnetic disturbances that coincide with moments of extreme human determination," Amy replied. "The pattern is consistent across hundreds of different incidents." Ziktar tried to sit up, but winced in pain. "Captain Morrison, you must understand. The other alien governments know about this too. They are not afraid of humans. They are afraid of what travels with you. If this entity has been helping humans for thousands of years, why are the aliens just now becoming concerned about it?" Jake asked. "Because it is getting stronger," Ziktar explained. "Every human victory, every act of heroism, every moment, when your people refuse to give up, feeds the entity and makes it more powerful. The galactic community is starting to worry about what will happen if it continues to grow. Amy found more disturbing information in the files. The Caltharians have been tracking the entity's growth pattern. According to their projections, it will reach critical mass within the next 50 years. What happens at critical mass? Jake asked. No one knows, Ziktar said. But the ancient texts suggest that when the entity reaches full power, it will no longer need to hide. It will be strong enough to manifest physically in our dimension. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien governments were making plans based on their fear of something that most humans did not even know existed. The thought that humanity might be unknowingly carrying a cosmic entity through the galaxy was both terrifying and fascinating. Ziktar, why did your ship come to this system? Jake asked. What were you hoping to find here? We were looking for evidence of the entity's presence during the Battle of Proxima Centauri, Ziktar replied. Our instruments detected massive energy signatures during the battle that cannot be explained by conventional physics. Amy was still reading the files when she found something that made her stand up quickly. Captain, according to these records, the entity does not just enhance human combat abilities. It affects everything humans do when they are trying to protect. Something? What do you mean? Jake asked. Human technology performs better than it should. Human ships are more resilient than their design specifications indicate, and human weapons are more accurate than mathematical models predict, Amy explained. The entity's influence extends to every aspect of human civilization. Ziktar nodded. That is why the quarantine zones exist. The alien governments are trying to contain the entity's influence before it spreads to other species. Jake realized that they were dealing with something much bigger than they had imagined. If the aliens were right, then humanity had been unknowingly partnered with a cosmic entity for thousands of years. Every great achievement, every impossible victory, every moment of heroism might have been enhanced by something beyond human understanding. We need to return to Earth immediately, Jake said. Command needs to know about this. Captain, Ziktar said weakly, there is something else you should know. My government was not the only one studying your species. The Drakmori Empire has been planning something. They believe the entity is a threat to galactic stability, and they are preparing to do something about it. What kind of something? Jake asked. They are planning to separate the entity from humanity by force, Ziktar replied. They have been building a weapon that can sever the symbiotic bond. But they do not realize that removing the entity might destroy what makes your species special. As the USS Endeavour prepared to leave the Proxima Centauri system, Jake knew that they were racing against time. If the aliens were planning to take action against humanity, then the human government needed to know about it before it was too late. The USS Endeavour was 3 days away from Earth when Dr. Amy Rodriguez made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying the Caltharian research files when she found references to an ancient archaeological site on the planet Kepler 442b. The site was mentioned in connection with the Wrath Eternal entity and contained information that might explain the true nature of humanity's cosmic partnership. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the science lab watching Amy work at her computer. The rescued Caltharian researcher, Ziktar, sat nearby, still recovering from his injuries, but eager to help them understand what his people had discovered. The ancient texts describe a temple complex on Kepler 442b that predates human space travel by thousands of years, Amy explained as she showed Jake the alien writing on her screen. According to these records, the temple contains murals and inscriptions that tell the story of the Wrath Eternal. How do the Caltharians know about this place? Jake asked. They have been secretly studying ancient alien ruins for decades. Ziktar replied, My people believe that understanding the past is the key to predicting the future. The temple on Kepler 442b was discovered 50 years ago, but the expedition team never returned. Jake looked at the star charts showing the location. Of Kepler 442b, the planet was in neutral space, far from any major alien colonies. What happened to the expedition team? They sent back one final transmission before all contact was lost, Ziktar said. The message was heavily distorted, but our linguists managed to decode part of it. The team reported finding evidence that the entity had been active on hundreds of worlds throughout galactic history. Amy pulled up another file from the Caltharian database. Captain, I found something else. The temple is not just a historical site. According to the alien texts, it is still active. The entity uses places like this as anchor points in our dimension. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means the entity is not just following humanity through space, Amy explained. It has been preparing for thousands of years. Every species it has bonded with has helped it grow stronger and more stable in our reality. Jake felt a chill as he realized the implications. Are you saying that humans are not the first species to be bonded with this entity? No, sir, Amy replied. According to the ancient records, the entity has formed partnerships with warrior species throughout galactic history. But something about humans is different. We are helping it reach a level of power it has never achieved before. Ziktar nodded weakly. That is why the galactic community is so afraid. Previous bonded species eventually died out or lost their warrior nature. But humans continue to grow stronger and more determined with each generation. Jake made a decision that would change the course of their mission. Set course for Kepler 442b. We need to see this temple for ourselves. Sir, that will delay our return to Earth by at least a week, Linda Carter said from the bridge communication system. I know, Jake replied. But we need to understand what we are dealing with before we report back to command. The journey to Kepler 442b took 4 days. When they arrived, the planet looked like a dead world with no signs of life. But their sensors detected artificial structures on the surface that were clearly not natural formations. Jake led a small team down to the planet's surface. The group included Amy, Ziktar, and 2 security officers named Pete Johnson and Kate Sullivan. They landed near the temple complex and immediately felt that something was different about this place. The temple was built from black stone that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered every surface, and the air itself felt heavy with an energy that made their skin crawl. As they walked through the corridors, their equipment began to malfunction in subtle ways. The electromagnetic readings are off the charts, Amy said as she checked her instruments. There is definitely something active here. They found the main chamber deep inside the temple. The walls were covered with murals that told a story spanning thousands of years. The images showed different alien species bonding with a dark entity that gave them incredible power in exchange for their devotion. Look at this, Amy said as she studied one of the murals. This shows the Vorthic Empire from 3,000 years ago. They were known for their incredible military might before they mysteriously disappeared. Ziktar translated the alien text. Beneath the mural, it says the Vorthic became so powerful that they threatened the stability of the galaxy. The other species united to destroy them before they could spread their influence. Jake examined another mural that showed a more recent species. What about these beings? They look familiar. Those are the Kentari, Ziktar replied. They were a peaceful species until they bonded with the entity. Within a few generations, they became the most feared warriors in the galaxy. They were eventually defeated by a coalition of alien races, but not before they conquered half the known galaxy. Amy was studying the final mural when she made a shocking discovery. Captain, look at this. The last image shows humans. But this temple is thousands of years old. How could ancient aliens have known about humanity? The mural showed human figures surrounded by the same dark energy that had empowered the other species. But there was something different about the human images. They were not just warriors. They were shown protecting other species and building, rather than destroying. The entity chooses its partners carefully, Ziktar explained. It must have been watching humanity for thousands of years before making contact. Jake studied the human mural more carefully. When did the entity first bond with humanity? According to our research, the bonding began during your species' early history, Ziktar replied. Every major turning point in human development shows signs of the entity's influence. Amy found a section of the temple that contained what appeared to be a control room. Ancient alien technology lined the walls and screens showed star maps, with marked locations throughout the galaxy. One screen showed the current position of every human colony. The entity has been tracking human expansion through space, Amy said. It knows exactly where every human settlement is located. Jake looked at the star map and realized something disturbing. The marked locations are not just human colonies. They are strategic points that could be used to control major space routes. The entity is not just growing stronger, Ziktar said. It is positioning itself to influence the entire galaxy through its human partners. Suddenly, the temple systems activated. Lights came on throughout the complex, and the screens began displaying new information. A voice echoed through the chambers, but it was not speaking any known language. What is happening? Kate Sullivan asked as she checked her weapon. The entity knows we are here, Amy said. It is trying to communicate with us. The voice changed and began speaking in English. The words seemed to come from everywhere at once, and they could feel the power behind them. Children of Earth, you have found the truth. The time of revelation approaches. Jake stepped forward. What do you want from humanity? Partnership. The voice replied, as it has always been. Your species has the potential to become something greater than any who came before. The other species you bonded with were destroyed, Jake said. Why should we trust you? They were consumed by their own nature, the voice explained. They sought only power and conquest. Humanity is different. You fight to protect, not to destroy. You build instead of tear down. Together, we can create something new. Amy was recording everything on her instruments. What happens if we refuse the partnership? You cannot refuse what has already been accepted, the voice said. The bond was formed long ago. It grows stronger with each act of heroism, each moment of sacrifice, each time you choose to protect the innocent. Jake realized that they were not negotiating with the entity. They were learning about a relationship that had been in place for thousands of years. What do you want us to do? Prepare your species for the next stage of evolution, the voice replied. The galaxy will soon face a threat that requires the combined strength of all civilized species. Humanity will be the shield that protects them all. The temple systems began to shut down, and the voice faded away. The team stood in silence for several minutes, trying to process what they had learned. We need to get back to Earth immediately, Jake said. Command needs to know about this before the alien coalition takes action. As they prepared to leave the temple, Amy made one final discovery. Hidden in the control room was a data storage device containing detailed information about the entity's true nature and its plans for humanity. Captain, this device contains the entity's complete history, Amy said. If we can decode it, we might be able to understand what is really happening. Jake took the device and put it in his pocket. We will study it on the way back to Earth. Right now, we need to focus on getting this information to our government before it is too late. As the USS Endeavour left Kepler 442b, Jake knew that they had uncovered something that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The question was whether they could convince their own government and the alien coalition to accept the truth, before fear and misunderstanding led to a war that could destroy everything they were trying to protect. The USS Endeavour was halfway back to Earth when Dr. Amy Rodriguez finally decoded the alien data storage device they had found in the temple. What she discovered made her call Captain Jake Morrison to the science lab immediately. The information was so shocking that she could barely believe it herself. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy said as Jake entered the lab. The device contains the complete history of the entity's interactions with different species across the galaxy. Jake looked at the screen showing alien text and diagrams. "What does it say?" "The entity is not just a cosmic parasite or symbiont," Amy explained. "It is something much more complex. According to these records, it was created by an ancient civilization as a defense mechanism against something called the Void Hunters." "What are the Void Hunters?" Jake asked. Amy pulled up another section of the data. "They are beings that exist outside our reality and feed on the life force of entire galaxies. The ancient civilization that created the entity was trying to develop a weapon that could fight them." Ziktar, who had been listening from his medical bed, spoke up. "The old legends speak of a great war in the distant past. Entire star systems were consumed by darkness and billions of beings died. But the stories were always considered myths." "They were not myths," Amy said. "The Void Hunters are real, and they are coming back. According to the entity's records, they return every 50,000 years to feed on our galaxy. The last time they came, most of the advanced civilizations were destroyed." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "When are they supposed to return?" "Soon," Amy replied. "The entity has been preparing for their return by bonding with warrior species and building up their defensive capabilities. Humanity is the final piece of its plan." "What makes humans so special?" Jake asked. "Our emotional nature," Amy explained. "Most alien species are logical and controlled. They make decisions based on facts and calculations. But humans make decisions based on emotion and moral conviction. The entity feeds on righteous anger and protective instincts, which makes humans the perfect partners." Ziktar nodded. "That is why human military forces perform so well in desperate situations. The entity amplifies your natural protective instincts and channels them into physical power." Amy found another section of the data that showed the entity's influence on human history. "Captain, look at this. The entity has been subtly guiding human development for thousands of years. Every major advancement in human technology, every breakthrough in science, every moment when humans achieved the impossible has been enhanced by the entity's presence." "Are you saying that human civilization is not really human?" Jake asked. "No, sir," Amy replied. "The achievements are still human. The entity does not control us or make decisions for us. It simply amplifies our natural abilities when we are trying to protect something important." Jake studied the data showing human technological development. "This explains why human ships are more efficient than they should be, and why human weapons are more accurate than alien science can predict. The entity enhances everything we create when it serves a protective purpose," Amy said. "Our ships are stronger because they carry humans who will fight to protect others. Our weapons are more accurate because they are used by people who refuse to let innocents suffer." Ziktar was looking at the medical data about the entity's influence on human physiology. "Captain Morrison, this information shows that the bonding process is not complete. The entity is still growing stronger with each generation of humans. What happens when the bonding is complete?" Jake asked. "According to the records, humans will become something new," Amy replied. "A hybrid species that combines human emotion and determination with cosmic power. The entity believes this new form will be able to fight the Void Hunters when they return." Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "What about the other alien species? Are they part of this? Plan to? No, sir, Amy said. The entity tried to bond with other species, but they lacked the emotional intensity needed to reach full power. The Vorthik and Kantari came close, but they were consumed by their own aggressive nature. That is why the galactic community is so afraid, Ziktar added. They know that when the entity reaches full power through its human partners, it will no longer need to hide. It will be strong enough to openly influence galactic politics. Amy found a section of the data that showed the entity's timeline. Captain, according to these projections, the bonding process will reach critical mass within the next 10 years. After that, the entity will begin manifesting physically in our dimension. What does that mean for humanity? Jake asked. We will become the guardians of the galaxy, Amy replied. The entity will give us the power to protect all intelligent life from the Void Hunters. But it will also make us responsible for maintaining peace and order throughout civilized space. Jake realized that they were not just dealing with a cosmic entity that had bonded with humanity. They were looking at a plan that had been in motion for thousands of years to prepare the galaxy for a threat that most species had forgotten existed. We need to contact Earth Command immediately, Jake said. They need to know about the Void Hunters and the entity's true purpose. Sir, there is something else, Amy said. The data shows that the alien coalition is planning to act soon. They have been building a weapon that can sever the bond between the entity and humanity. But they do not realize that doing so will leave the galaxy defenseless against the Void Hunters. How long do we have? Jake asked. According to the intelligence reports in the data, the Drakmori Empire is planning to attack human space within the next month, Amy replied. They believe they are saving the galaxy from a cosmic threat, but they are actually dooming it. Jake made a decision that would determine the fate of both humanity and the galaxy. Linda, set course for Earth at maximum speed. We need to get this information to command before the aliens make a mistake that destroys us all. As the USS Endeavour raced toward Earth, Jake knew that they were carrying information that would change everything. The question was whether they could convince their own government and the alien coalition to accept the truth before fear and misunderstanding led to a war that would leave the galaxy defenseless against the real threat. Amy continued studying the data as they traveled. Captain, I found something else. The entity has been preparing human space for the coming conflict. All of the strategic locations where humans have built colonies and military bases are positioned to create a defensive network against the Void Hunters. So the entity has been guiding human expansion through space? Jake asked. Not guiding, Amy corrected. Enhancing. Humans made the decisions about where to build colonies and bases. The entity simply made sure that those decisions were slightly better than they would have been otherwise. Jake looked at the star charts showing human territory. If the alien coalition destroys the entity, will humans lose their enhanced abilities? According to the data, the bonding process has progressed too far to be completely reversed, Amy replied. But without the entity's active influence, human civilization would stagnate. We would lose the drive to explore, to protect others, and to achieve the impossible. Ziktar was studying the medical data about the entity's effects on human biology. Captain, there is something you should know. The entity does not just enhance human abilities. It is slowly changing human DNA to create a more perfect partnership. What kind of changes? Jake asked. Enhanced reflexes, improved cognitive function, and increased emotional stability, Ziktar replied. The entity is creating a version of humanity that can handle the power it will eventually grant. Amy made one final discovery as they approached. Earth. Captain, the entity has been preparing for this moment for thousands of years. It knows about the alien coalition's plans, and it has been positioning human forces to defend against their attack. Are you saying that the entity wants a war with the alien coalition? Jake asked. "No, sir," Amy replied. "It wants to demonstrate to the galaxy that humanity is ready to become its protectors. The coming conflict will be a test to prove that humans can handle the responsibility of cosmic guardianship." As Earth came into view, Jake knew that they were about to deliver information that would change humanity's destiny. The entity had been preparing for this moment for thousands of years, and now it was time for humans to make a choice about their future and their role in the galaxy. The question was whether humanity would embrace its cosmic partnership or try to reject a bond that had been growing stronger for thousands of years. Either way, the decision would determine not just the fate of the human species, but the survival of all intelligent life in the galaxy. The USS Endeavour reached Earth just as the alien coalition fleet appeared at the edge of human space. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the massive formation of ships from a dozen different species. The Drakmori Empire had convinced the other alien governments that humanity posed a threat to galactic stability, and now they were here to solve the problem by force. Admiral Susan Hayes contacted the Endeavour from her flagship, the USS Constitution. She was a veteran commander who had spent 30 years protecting human space from various threats. But she had never faced anything like this massive alien fleet. "Captain Morrison, we received your report about the entity," Admiral Hayes said on the main screen. "Command is still trying to process the implications, but we need to focus on the immediate threat." "Admiral, the aliens do not understand what they are doing," Jake replied. "If they sever the bond between humanity and the entity, they will leave the galaxy defenseless against the Void Hunters." "I know," Admiral Hayes said, "but right now we have 1,200 alien ships preparing to attack human colonies. We need to defend our people first and worry about cosmic threats later." Dr. Amy Rodriguez was monitoring the alien fleet with her sensors. "Captain, the alien ships are taking positions around all major human colonies. They are not just planning to attack Earth. They want to hit every human settlement simultaneously." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet's positions. They are trying to contain the entity's influence by surrounding human space. On the colony world of New Denver, Mayor Ryan Brooks was organizing the evacuation of civilians. The colony had only a small defense force, but they were preparing to fight against impossible odds. The people of New Denver had built their lives on that world, and they were not going to abandon it without a fight. "This is New Denver Control. To all defense units," Ryan broadcast on the emergency frequency. "We have confirmed reports of alien ships approaching the system. All civilian transports are to evacuate immediately. Military units are to prepare for defensive action." The colonists did not panic. They had heard the stories about human military victories against overwhelming odds, and they believed that their small defense force could hold off the alien attack. What they did not know was that their confidence was being enhanced by the entity's influence. Captain Steve Miller commanded the defense station orbiting New Denver. He had only 6 patrol ships and a handful of fighters, but he was determined to protect the colony. As the alien fleet approached, he felt a strange calm settle over him and his crew. "All units, this is Defense Command," Steve broadcast. "We are outnumbered 50-1, but we are not going to let them touch our people. Remember what we are. Fighting for and do not give up no matter what happens." The battle began when the alien ships opened fire on the defense station. Steve's small force fought back with everything they had, and somehow their weapons seemed more accurate than usual. Their shields held longer than they should have, and their ships moved with impossible grace through the enemy fire. Back on the USS Endeavour, Jake watched the battle through the sensor displays. "Amy, are you seeing this? The colonists are fighting like they have supernatural abilities." "The entity's influence is stronger than ever," Amy replied. "It is channeling the colonists' determination into physical power." The alien fleet commander was a Drakmori general named Vexvar, who had spent years studying human military tactics. He expected the small human force to be destroyed quickly, but instead they were fighting with incredible effectiveness. How are they doing this? Vexvar demanded from his flagship. Our calculations show that they should have been defeated 10 minutes ago. His tactical officers studied the sensor readings. General, the human ships are performing beyond their design specifications. Their weapons are more powerful, and their shields are stronger than our intelligence reports indicated. Vexvar realized that they were witnessing the entity's power in action. All ships, focus fire on the defense station. We need to break their will to fight. But the humans did not break. As the battle became more desperate, they fought even harder. Captain Miller's ship was badly damaged, but he continued coordinating the defense. His crew worked with impossible efficiency, and their weapons found targets that should have been out of range. On Earth, the human government was debating how to respond to the alien attack. President Lara Thompson had called an emergency session of the Security Council to discuss their options. We have reports of alien fleets attacking human colonies throughout our space, Defense Secretary Robert Chon announced. Our forces are fighting back, but they are heavily outnumbered. What about the entity that Captain Morrison reported? President Thompson asked. Is it really helping our people fight? According to the battle reports, our forces are performing at impossible levels, Secretary Chung replied. Whatever this entity is, it is definitely on our side. Ambassador Lisa Carter, who had been negotiating with the Galactic Council for years, stood up to address the Security Council. Madam President, I have been in contact with moderate alien leaders who oppose this attack. They are willing to negotiate if we can demonstrate that humanity is not a threat to galactic stability. How do we do that while we are being attacked? President Thompson asked. We show them that humans fight to protect, not to conquer, Ambassador Carter replied. If our forces can defend the colonies without launching counterattacks against alien worlds, it will prove that the entity's influence makes us protectors, not destroyers. Back at New Denver, the battle was reaching its climax. Captain Miller's defense force had been reduced to 3 ships, but they were still fighting. The alien fleet had lost dozens of vessels, and their commander was becoming increasingly frustrated. This is impossible, General Vexvar said. They should have been defeated hours ago. Suddenly, the entity's voice echoed through the alien fleet's communication systems. Children of the stars, you attack those who would protect you. The darkness approaches and you destroy the light that would guide you through it. The alien commanders were terrified to hear the entity speaking directly to them. Many of their ships stopped firing and began to retreat. But General Vexvar was determined to complete his mission. All ships ignore the voice and continue the attack, he ordered. We came here to destroy this threat, and we will not be intimidated by tricks. Admiral Hayes arrived at New Denver with a human rescue fleet just as the alien attack was intensifying. She had made a decision that would change the course of the battle and prove humanity's true nature. This is Admiral Hayes to all human forces. She broadcast, we are not here to destroy the alien fleet. We are here to protect our people and show the galaxy who we really are. The human rescue fleet moved between the alien attackers and the colony. Instead of launching a counterattack, they focused on defending the civilians and damaged ships. Their actions demonstrated that humans fought to protect, not to conquer. The entity's influence grew stronger as the human forces showed their true nature. The rescue ships performed impossible maneuvers to shield the colony from alien fire. Their weapons were used only to disable alien ships, not to destroy them. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was monitoring the entity's energy levels from the USS Endeavour. Captain, the entity is reaching critical mass. Its influence is spreading beyond human space. Jake looked at the sensor readings showing energy waves radiating from the battle site. What does that mean? It means the entity is strong enough to begin manifesting physically in our dimension, Amy replied. The bonding process is complete. A massive energy field appeared around the new Denver system. The field was visible to every ship in the area, and it pulsed with a rhythm that matched the human heartbeat. The entity was no longer hiding its presence. The voice spoke again, this time addressing all the beings in the system. The test is complete. Humanity has proven worthy of the power I offer. Together, we will stand against the darkness that comes. General Vexver realized that his attack had triggered exactly what he was trying to prevent. The entity had used the battle to demonstrate its power and prove that humans were ready to become cosmic guardians. All ships, cease fire and withdraw, he ordered. We have made a terrible mistake. The alien fleet began to retreat, but many of the commanders were already beginning to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had not fought to destroy their enemies, but to protect their own people and demonstrate their true nature. Ambassador Carter received a communication from the Galactic Council requesting immediate negotiations. The alien governments had seen the battle and realized that humanity and the entity were not the threat they had believed. Captain Morrison. Admiral Hayes contacted the USS Endeavour. Command wants you to return to Earth immediately. We need your expertise for the negotiations with the alien coalition. As the USS Endeavour headed back to Earth, Jake knew that everything had changed. Humanity had accepted its cosmic partnership and proven that it was ready to become the galaxy's protectors. The entity was no longer hiding, and the other species would have to decide whether to accept human guardianship or face the coming darkness alone. The void, hunters were still coming, and the galaxy would need every species working together to survive. But now humanity had the power to lead that fight, and the entity to guide them through the darkness that lay ahead. The aliens had feared human space because they sensed the power that traveled with humanity. Now they knew the truth about that power, and they would have to decide whether to embrace it or be destroyed by their own fear of change.